All right, let's dive into something that trips up so many people, the subtle but super important differences between Indian English and American English. It's all one language, but as you'll see, it can sometimes feel like two different worlds. Let's get into it.
So, has this ever happened to you? You're talking to someone, you use a word you think is perfectly normal, the right word, and you just get a blank stare. It's in those little moments of confusion that we're going to be focusing on today, so we can all communicate just a little bit better.
So, where do these differences even start? Well, the first and maybe biggest clue isn't even about the words we choose, but about the music of the language. It all begins with pronunciation.
Okay, let's take a classic example, the letter T. In a lot of Indian English, that T has a very sharp, clear, hard sound. Listen, water, water. But in American English, that T often gets softened into something that sounds way more like a D. So you get waiter, waiter. It's a tiny shift, but it totally changes the texture of the word.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it's not just about single sounds. It's also about rhythm, where you put the emphasis or the stress in a word. For example, in Indian English, you'll often hear the stress on the second syllable, computer. But in American English, that emphasis jumps right to the front, computer. This little change in rhythm is one of the clearest giveaways of where someone's from.
All right, so we've covered sound and rhythm, but what about when we're using completely different words for the exact same thing? This is where it can get really interesting. We're speaking the same language, but sometimes it feels like we're pulling from two totally different dictionaries.
And here are some of the greatest hits. A lot of these Indian English terms come straight from British English. So what's called a flat becomes an apartment in the US. A lift becomes an elevator. A holiday is a vacation, and a rubber for getting rid of pencil marks, that's an eraser. Just knowing these few can save you from a whole lot of confusion.
Okay, so we've looked at the pieces, the sounds, the words. Now let's put it all together and see how these differences actually play out in a couple of full sentences. This is where you can really start to hear it. So for instance, an Indian English speaker would most likely say, he is in the lift. Pretty clear, right? The key word there is, of course, lift.
But in the US, the direct translation, the way everyone would say it, is, he is in the elevator. It's a simple word swap, but it instantly places the sentence in a different part of the world.
Here's another perfect example. In India, you might hear someone say, I am staying in a flat.
And in America, that same idea is expressed like this: I am staying in an apartment. Again, it just goes to show how these small but distinct word choices are immediate signals of where a speaker comes from.
So, you might be wondering, how do you actually get good at navigating all this? Well, here's the secret. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being aware. Let's look at a few practical tools you can start using right away.
So the crucial point is, this all gets easier with practice. Think of it like this. First, just listen. Put on movies, news, anything from the other region, and just let your ear get used to the flow. Second, make a little mental list of those key word swaps we talked about, lift, flat, and so on. And finally, when you're listening, really try to notice the sounds. Hear those hard T's, or catch where the stress falls in a word. It's all about listening with intention.
We've gone over a lot in a short amount of time, I know. So let's just quickly boil it all down to the most important things to take away from all this.
Okay, so let's bottom line it. The big differences really fall into three buckets. Pronunciation, like that hard T versus the soft D. Rhythm, like where you put the emphasis on a word. And vocabulary, with those classic swaps like flat for apartment. But really, the single most important skill isn't memorizing rules. It's just awareness. The moment you know what to listen for, you're already most of the way there.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. As our world gets smaller and more connected, all these different types of English are mixing and mingling and changing all the time. So, what do you think the future of global English is actually going to sound like? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.